Hi, I'm Eric Bednash, and I'm here with Ron Gula. Ron is the president of Gula Tech Adventures and the co-founder of Tenable Network Security. Ron, thanks for joining me today.
Hey Eric, how's it going?
Great. So today we're going to talk about cyber hygiene. And let's just start with, what is cyber hygiene?
So cyber hygiene is the best thing that the cyber industry has come up with to communicate about cybersecurity to lay people. As soon as people started saying cyber hygiene, everybody started paying attention to it. Cyber is such a complex topic with firewalls and access control and intrusion detection and compliance. The average layperson has no idea how things are. But now boards can go to their IT people and say, hey, how is our hygiene? Now it's a bit nebulous because everybody can kind of claim a little bit of how they help with cyber hygiene, but it's great to get the conversation started.
Right. So why is that sort of important? I mean, from two angles. So understanding that it helps create an easier way to communicate what it all means, but as an enterprise, why is it important that I have good hygiene?
So a lot of what the hygiene is basics, right? So as humans, we talk about brushing our teeth, taking showers, getting enough sleep, eating right. What are those equivalent things in cybersecurity? And they're patching your systems, knowing what systems that you have, knowing what users that you have, and how to authenticate to those systems. Those basic things right there is a lot of what President Obama talked about in his various cybersecurity acts. And it's also, you can see echoes of that in a lot of the compliance frameworks. But when you hit the average person with something like the NIST cybersecurity framework or compliance regulations, they get overburdened pretty quickly. So let's just talk about knowing what you have and keeping them secure.
So let's talk about that for a second, because when it comes to these guidelines or principles that are established, like NIST, they kind of provide frameworks or playbooks to kind of go by to build this hygiene. Do those two things work hand in hand? Are there other sort of guidelines or principles that should be followed to sort of encapsulate the whole process?
Yeah, generally my feeling is that organizations either underspend, and questions about hygiene and frameworks easily show that they're lax in some areas, such as keeping data secure where it's stored, or perhaps they're overspending, and then those frameworks and basic hygiene, they can say, well, why do we need 3 types of antivirus or 4 types of network intrusion detection? So they kind of works both ways, but in both ways, you kind of get a yardstick to figure out how well your organization's doing.
Right. So how does this apply to data? Because I understand how when people think about cybersecurity, the general population starts to think about the network or my firewall and kind of work their way in, but it's a lot of external based things. So let's talk about data, because that's our core business here at RackTop, and we like to focus on data and protecting data. And so how does cyber hygiene relate to from a data perspective? Yeah.
So the story I like to tell is that with cyber hygiene, usually security engineering comes into play to build and make a network secure. And of course in Hollywood and in the movies there's always an attack and people are going to be responding to an attack. But if you have to detect an attack, it's too late. What I like about RackTop with cyber hygiene is that not only can we put the data in one spot, but you have in multiple ways where you can give authorized users access to that data, track that data, and basically prevent unauthorized users from walking away with that data.
Right. So yeah, some of the things that we do within Brickstore is around reporting, right, and it's awareness, right. So you talk about if you think about the common term of hygiene, it's being able to look on a daily basis who has access to what do they have access to, and when has that access changed, right? So it kind of paints a picture for how exposed your data is within the enterprise. And then if something were to happen, it gives you a great assessment of the impact of what has just occurred, because you can see that if you did suffer a breach or something of that nature, you can quickly assess what was taken, who had access to it, and things of that nature.
I think one of my favorite features about Brickstore is the audit trail that you get, knowing what user accessed which files. Now, that technology exists at the endpoint, that sort of exists on the network layer with DLP, but you have to struggle to kind of look for meaning. The cool thing about the logs you get out of RackTop is that it's already been done. You get a really nice log. Eric grabbed these files, Ron grabbed these files, And you can feed that to any type of SIM, log storage, or UBA, user-based activity type of solution.
Yeah, right. So it completes that sort of that security ecosystem, right? Again, it's not just one piece of the puzzle, it's many pieces of the puzzle coming together to solve that problem.
And then for basic things, if you terminate an employee, you have some sort of need to figure out, where did an employee go, you get a really, really nice audit trail of everything that is. So if you have an Edward Snowden incident, or if you just want to prevent it and audit and see who has access to which files, you have that kind of visibility. And that type of authentication is something that people really don't do with cyber hygiene. Knowing that you have users who are accessing sensitive files is a big deal, as is knowing that you have sensitive files out there open to the world.
Right. So if our viewers want to learn more about cyber hygiene, how do they find out?
I think that your users should Google cyber hygiene. The vendor community, the public speaker community have done a really good job giving lots of analogies. I would also look at some of President Obama's cybersecurity acts that or executive actions that really outline basic things like patching, access to the data, and authenticating your users.
All right, great. Well, thank you. If you want to learn more about how RackTop addresses cyber hygiene, go to www.racktopsystems.com. I'm Eric. Until next time.